Hey Russ,
How you doing?
good man. How you doing?
Good,
All
real
right,
good.
awesome. Shall we get started?
Absolutely.
Nice. Where are you today?
I am in beautiful northern Michigan,
No.
in Traverse City, Michigan.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm in uh, kind of cloudy Santa Monica. I think we've got all the sun tax has been going to have to get revoked because it's been cloudy here for the last 3 months.
That's what
And
I've
hello to
heard.
everybody.
That's what I've
Yeah,
heard.
and where those of you online, thank you. I saw a guy from Dubai and a guy from Florida. I'd love to know where you guys are. It's a pleasure. Let me take a second to introduce Russ Van Maele, Dr. Russ Van Maele, who I will refer to as Dr. Russ. Russ is a board-certified internal medicine physician and one of our extraordinary physicians on the Lifeforce team. I'm going
I've done.
to start off just with a conversation around what is functional medicine. And, we hear about it. I think functional medicine is one of the most interesting innovations, and I'm really excited that most, if not all, of the Lifeforce physicians are functional medicine docs. What does that mean for someone who's never heard that term before?
Sure. Well, I think to me, functional medicine is the combination of using our training in Western medicine from medical school and residency, and then combining that with lifestyle and trying to figure out the root cause of all sorts of health issues. So how I like to phrase functional medicine is just using things that we have at our disposal: nutrition, diet, exercise, sleep, stress. These are the pillars that we need to build off of. And usually when we can figure out why somebody's having some issues, it has to do with one of those core things. And we figure things out from the root cause instead of jumping towards pharmaceuticals and jumping towards some of these other treatments that a lot of the Western docs are using.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? The body is pretty damn good at healing itself if you can figure out what the root cause is and
Yes.
getting rid of that. And I mean, for me, that's a wake-up call. I went to medical school years ago, and like I tell people, don't come to me for anything. I'll give you a 2-for-1 special on both your appendices. Um, and none of this was being taught back then. And it's it's an extraordinary. What's your journey that brought you to Fountain Life? I mean, that brought you to Lifeforce.
Sure. I think it's building my network has been a huge, deal over my relatively short career. I'm not that old. I'm in my early 30s. But it all started, I mean, I give all the credit to my parents growing up. I wanted to be somebody that was healthy and active and fit. And then that translated into wanting to give that to other people and being a physician. And my backstory is I wanted to be a GI doctor. For whatever reason, I loved doing colonoscopies, or at least being in there for colonoscopies. The GI docs were so cool. They're so laid back. And we talked about the most important thing, which was nutrition, in my opinion, and
Yeah.
food and how that affects microbiome and your health overall. And I kind of had this moment in residency where I kept talking about nutrition and all these things, and I realized that GI was not the route to do that. You were seeing more of the problems with that as opposed to the prevention of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I just started reading a ton of books and, starting going to conferences, and the next thing you know, one thing leads to another, and the founder of Lifeforce gives you a call and you say yes, and next thing you know, I'm doing functional medicine on a telemedicine platform. So it's awesome.
Yeah. I want to take a second. We're going to be talking through a lot of this here, and if those of you who are new to Lifeforce, what we built with an amazing group of folks. I'm proud to be partnered with Tony Robbins as well, coming out of our book Lifeforce, which was published about a year ago. Is we now have the ability to actually understand what's going on in our bodies, and understand the key knobs to turn to try and maintain maximal vitality. And this is less of a conversation around longevity at the moment. I have a separate company, Fountain Life, that is really focused on the longevity side, but it really is a conversation here in Lifeforce about vitality. How do you maintain peak energy and physiology to allow you to enjoy life? And one of the things that's interesting, Russ, that I tell people and they don't realize, I say, the human body was never actually designed to live past age 30. We would on the savannas of Africa, hundreds of thousands of years ago, you would get pregnant at age 13, and by the time you were 26, you were a grandparent. And back before Whole Foods and McDonald's was around, and before there was a massive amount of calories, the last thing you wanted to do to keep the species perpetuating was to steal food from your grandchildren's mouths. So the body was never designed past that. And at the end of the day, much of our physiology, while we're good into our 20s, into our early 30s, there is a reduction after that on a multitude of different areas, from hormone dysregulation to your thymus to a whole slew of things. And we now understand that, and there are things we can do about it. And I believe, if you don't measure it, you can't impact it. And what we do at Lifeforce is we allow our members to get a quarterly blood draw of 40 or so biomarkers to understand what is your physiological condition. Because most of us have no idea. You feel a little run down, you feel a little bit off, but you don't actually know what's going on until you look. And given the telemedicine platform, if you're talking to Dr. Russ in Michigan, or you're talking to one of the other functional medicine doctors throughout the US, you have a chance to now look at the numbers, look at the dashboard, look at what your body is telling you. And then given those numbers, just like if you're a pilot, you're flying with a dashboard in your airplane or driving your car, you're able to know, okay, this is off. I need to supplement this. And Lifeforce has built sort of a series of SKUs, a series of products around medicines and supplements and peptides and hormones intended to be able to impact those 40 biomarkers. How else would you describe it? What did I say wrong, or how would you flesh that out further?
No, I think that's great. And I think if you're not getting checked, you don't know. I think that's one of the biggest things that, a lot of even people I've seen today, they come in, I always ask them, where do you think your health is at right now? And to them, they view themselves as very healthy.
Yes.
But to me, on paper or on the biomarkers, I would think otherwise. Because we got a lot of biomarkers that are off, and you may not even know it. You may not know your risk. And that's what
I'm reading this here, and Rainy Girls, I think it's what her handle was, says she's terrified to know. And the reality is, if there's something wrong, you're going to know eventually. And when do you want to know? And the answer is as soon as possible, when you have a chance to do something about it. The body is amazingly good at hiding problems in the early stages. And you may not know because you don't feel anything until things are off a significant amount. So being able to get the data and make fine tunes along the way is critically important.
Absolutely. And I tell to anybody that's scared, I mean, I even have certain family members that don't want to know if they have diabetes or not, and it scares them to death. And my, kind of philosophy on that is every one of us doctors nobody's judging you at all.
Yeah.
We want to know these things.
Yeah, I saw Steve just on quoting me saying, "Don't die from something stupid." Yeah, it's like wear your seatbelt, wear your ski helmet, and get yourself and understand what's going on inside your body. And
Right.
Maximum Potential says loves their amazing coach Kelly. Yes, Kelly's amazing as well. So at the end of the day, it's not all about just medicine. It is about lifestyle change too, right? And
Absolutely.
when I think about it, I think about diet, exercise, sleep, mindset, which includes stress and love and companionship. You want to talk about each of those for a minute?
Absolutely. So, I think everybody has their own personalized approach, how they want to run it. And I always start my calls with, tell me your why,
Yes.
right? Why do you personally care about getting healthy? Because it's not going to be the same as my why. My why has to do with, my family and whatnot. We go down that road, but I want to know why you want to be healthy. And that's when I introduce the pillars of health: the diet, the stress, the sleep, the exercise. And I add sex to that picture too. Those are my
Yep.
5 ones, because
Yep.
all of those things need to be functioning well for us to be healthy. And usually when I talk to somebody and I kind of sit back for the first 5, 10, sometimes 15 minutes to let somebody talk, because usually they've never had that chance to do that with a doctor before. And usually if you kind of just sit back and relax, usually you can find out what is wrong with somebody, or the biggest lever to pull on their health that will make the biggest impact and change on their biomarkers.
Yeah, so everybody here, I think that's really important. So listen, if you feel amazing and you're doing great, bless you, that's extraordinary, and keep up what you're doing right now. If you're running out of energy early, if you are having a hard time keeping on muscle, or you're putting on too much weight, I mean, they're fundamentals here. And understanding what your objective is really critical. And for me, it's about energy, it's about muscle, and it's about doing everything I can to maximize my vitality and my longevity. And I care about that deeply. I have two 12-year-old boys, and I've got a few 100 years worth of adventures I want to pull off. So yeah, just pushing as hard as I can on that. Let's dive into some of the basics here, so everybody gets some value out of this.
Sure.
I think, again, I do hope I hope that if you're listening to this, that understanding the importance of knowing what's going on inside your body is critical. You can guess, you can feel good, but we know less about what's going on inside our body than we do our refrigerators or our cars on most time, right? And the body is great at hiding disease. You have to understand that. You don't feel anything until things are pretty far down the line. So what we do at Lifeforce is we do a quarterly blood draw to just check your numbers and understand, and then come back and say everything's great, fantastic, you should feel great about it, or we should optimize these elements of your life. And there are things that you can do, but having sort of a guardian angel like Dr. Russ with you, or Kelly, to help you understand what's going on is important. And this is different than typical medical care, right? Which is reactive. Medical care is, after things really are broken, versus early on, because we're living the time where you can do things about it more than ever before. So let's go to some of the basics. I'm going to kick off with diet. Diet, there's no one diet for everybody, right? But there are some universals. There are some truths that we should put out
Sure.
there. What are yours?
So my truths are, it comes down to real food at the end of the day. I think that is just a big thing that everybody overlooks. And a lot of times
Define real foods for me, would you?
a food,
Like whole plant.
you can look at it and tell me what it is. and you can
Okay, that's
hit
good.
every single ingredient in that food.
Yeah. So it's
Most
not a processed nutrition bar. It's like an apple. It's like a pepper. It's like an egg.
yeah, exactly. No, but most people don't know what they're eating. And I tell them like, hey, I get to see you, 4 times a year, okay, which is a lot more than you'll see any other doctor, right? I only have a certain time with you, but when you leave, you have to make decisions every single day up until we get to see each other again. And every single decision that we make, and you can apply this to nutrition, you can apply this to anything in life, it's going to have a consequence. And for people's health, I think it has to start with food and exercise. And if you're not making that conscious decision every single day of what you do to your body, what you put in your mouth, and, are you moving at all that day, you're
Yep.
not set up for success. You're not going to have all these, you know, healthy things that you want to have later on down the line. Forget about health span, forget about longevity. It's not going to work for you if you're not doing the basics right.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. So for me, I haven't, I've gone vegan for years. I've gone keto for years. I'm now back to a balanced diet where it's whole plants. I try and do 150 grams of protein every day because
Yeah,
I'm focused on adding muscle mass, and I'm about 150 pounds in weight. And so you need high protein if you're going to add muscle,
sure.
right? And then the one thing is the universal for me, I'm curious how you feel about it, is sugar is a poison. And minimizing sugar, and high glycemic index carbs. The body was never designed to live in this insane sugar land that we're in, right?
No,
Never designed for that. Yeah.
no. My two, they're toxins, okay? Number one is sugar. It's in everything, and that's why I'm like Whole Foods, if you don't know what's in it, there's probably some sugar, and if it doesn't say sugar on the ingredients, it says another form of sugar that you probably don't even. And the next thing you know, you're eating a science experiment that some guy, you have no idea who it created it, but he had things in mind when he created it to make a profit and to get you to come back for more, right? And that's a big problem when it comes to food, because we're going to keep eating stuff that's not healthy for us. So by far, sugar is toxic.
There's a question here that I want to ask you. It says, what are your thoughts about eggs? My husband had a heart attack recently, and the cardiologist said, no more eggs for you.
Well,
What do you feel about that?
I shouldn't pan out to my chicken coop outside of window. I'm a huge fan of eggs.
As
I think
as as am I.
they're
As am
God's.
I. By the way, one of the things is, it's not even your cholesterol level, it's the glycosylated cholesterol in your bloodstream, right? So the
Right.
sugar in your bloodstream sticks to the cholesterol, then makes it sticky onto the sides of your coronary arteries. I'd be less worried about someone's cholesterol level and much more worried about their hemoglobin A1C, how much sugar you've been taking in on a regular basis.
Sure. And it's not just hemoglobin A1C. There's so many other markers that we can look for insulin resistance that have such much bigger impacts than A1C that we have
Yep.
in our panel. And that's why you can't just look at one marker and say, oh, you're good, you're healthy, or I'll see you next year. That's probably my biggest pet peeve in medicine when I talk to my patients is, I see my doctor once a year, he says I'm good, or she says I'm good. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean you're good? Because I look at somebody and I see they haven't exercised, they're overweight, they're aging way faster than they should, and you're just giving the green light and be on with your day and the rest of your year, and I'll see you back. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And people need time with physicians that have like real conversations about their health.
So let's summarize on diet here. And I think I agree, Dr. Russ, what you said. I mean, it's whole plants. I tend towards a Mediterranean diet. I minimize sugar and carbs, and I will focus on taking in 150 grams of protein throughout the day because I want to add muscle because muscle is one of the key elements for a long and healthy life.
Sure.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Sleep. Let's talk about sleep.
Yeah. Sleep. That's a nice small topic. I talk to people about sleep every time because it's funny in Lifeforce we had a poll once because we have two supplements. We have a supplement for sleep called Peak Rest, which my wife and I love, and we do it as a hot tea before we go to bed every single night. And
Yep.
then we have Rise, like a stimulant in the morning to get you going. And my view is, why do you need Peak Rise if you're getting a good night's sleep? Getting a good night's sleep sets the tone for the rest of the day and sets a tone for the rest of your week. And a lot of people work their tails off Monday through Friday, and then Friday night and Saturday night they're using cocktails, setting their sleep back even more, and then they're not ready. That's why Monday hits them like a train, because you're continuing this like downward spiral of
Yep.
not getting enough. So there's a million different ways you could approach sleep, but sleep hygiene, I think, is the biggest thing that I communicate with people. Just the basics of sleep hygiene.
I am so on top of that. And I saw a honeybee saying that it's a big one. You barely get any sleep. Let's be clear about this. The body evolved to need 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
It didn't evolve to need 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours. It's like, okay, I'll let you get away with 7 to 8 hours, but it really is 8 hours of sleep. It's like you're the most unproductive and the most exposed while you sleep. I guarantee you, if you didn't need 8 hours of sleep, evolution would have gone away with it. So you do need it. The question is, how do you get it? And there's a number of tricks and trades. I'll give you mine. First and foremost, it is about sleep hygiene. It is you don't like going from like pounding on your computer or watching a television show to just shutting off and going to sleep. There is think of it as you're gliding on a glide path to go to sleep, right? So half an hour before, the lights come down, dim down. I'll use blue blocking glasses to block the blue light that's around. I'll take the temperature of my bedroom down to a frigid 63 degrees for me. That's what works for me. But you should be cool. The body needs to cool down to be able to signal going into deep sleep. I use a sleep eye mask, a manta mask that I love. That is foam rings around the eyes, and it makes it super comfortable. And then I use my Aura Ring for monitoring my sleep. I gamify it, right? It's basically, I know if I have a shitty score in the morning, it's because I screwed up the night before. So I'm like, nope, I'm going to hit 90 plus on this one. I'm going to go. And then the biggest thing, the number one biggest thing for everybody, it's getting to sleep at the same time on a regular basis. For me, I need to be in bed by 9:30 because my body wakes up at 5:30. And if that isn't happening, it doesn't help me if I go to sleep at 11 and say, oh, I could sleep till 8. It doesn't happen. So it's going to sleep the same time every night. These elements of sleep hygiene, super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think one of the first like game changers for me, like with Lifeforce, like getting your labs checked, for me was an Aura. There's a ton of them out there now. There's Whoop, there's Aura, there's Fitbit. But once again, I think I'm healthy. I'm thinking I'm getting a good night's sleep, and then you find out that you're really not.
Yep.
And then you can game it and say, experiment with yourself. Did exercise change this? Did blue light blocker glass change this? Did eating change this?
Ah, yes, eating. Talk about eating.
Yeah.
And by the way, Steve, I don't use a sleep tape. A lot of people do, and it's the thing I should experiment with it. We put a little piece of tape over your lips just to make sure that you're nose breathing at night, which is the right way. But I should play with sleep tape and see if it improves my scores.
So
Experiment.
I can comment that I use tape to sleep at night. I also use a nose strip as well. It's much healthier to breathe through your nose when you sleep. You secrete more nitric oxide through your nose when you breathe that way. I have a little bit of facial hair, and there's a lot of products on the market that are good, like sleep tape and whatnot. I have blue painter's tape is actually the best way to do it. It's much cheaper and it works pretty well.
Yes. Yeah, sleep tape, Honeybee, is just a very low sticky tape. You just put in your mouth, and that little bit of feeling of your lips together uh, stops you from opening your mouth and mouth breathing, which can give you apnea and cause you to snore. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it works. And like anything, check to see if it works for you. For me, my HRV went up, my heart rate drops. I get a lot more deep and REM sleep. So,
Yeah, blue masking tape for painting masking tape. That's great. So we hit diet again, whole plants, uh, no sugar. We hit sleep. Let's talk about exercise. If I had to say what exercise means to me, it's the number one vitality, longevity therapeutic that everyone wishes came in a pill.
yes, exactly. That's what I tell people. There will never be exercise in a pill. I wish it were different, but that will never be the case. There's nothing that can give you all the benefits of exercise that exercise can do. And that is the differentiator between, I always have this like push and pull between nutrition and exercise, but maybe sometimes exercise takes over and then nutrition, but you can't be healthy without exercising, period. And
So,
I think,
yeah, let me say what I do and then tell me what you do. So I'll do a heavy weight workout 3 times a week. Did one this morning. It's painful. 7 to 8 a.m. Wake up and do weights. I use a trainer. Just it guilts me to getting there on time and pushes me further than I normally do.
yeah,
But not everybody doesn't do that. And then I will try and get in aerobics the other days. And one of the areas I've been learning about is zone 2 heart rates, which is really, for me, it's 110 beats per minute to 120 beats per minute. And that's where you're really getting your mitochondria to grow and giving yourself your best metabolic health. What do you do for your exercise?
yeah. So I do a combination of endurance and resistance training. Resistance training just meaning heavy weightlifting. And I like to work out the big muscles, chest, butt, back, legs, about 3 times a week. And I find that works for me. And then on the off days,
How many times a week did you say?
I try to train 3 days a week. I
Okay.
think ideally I'd like to do probably 4, but at the end of the week, I'm happy if I did 3.
Yes.
And then, you gotta have it in there. You can't just be in the gym lifting weights. You gotta, get your heart rate up with some endurance training. Zone 2 is a great option. And I tell everybody, like, find something you like to do. For me, it's mountain biking. So I'm killing 2 birds with one stone because I really enjoy it, and I don't even realize that I'm working out because I love it so much. But I got plenty of do in there, and I'm outside. I'm in the sunshine. It's summertime in Michigan right now. It's beautiful out here. So big fan. You gotta mix it up, and you gotta do something that's fun for you. So that's why our health coaches are so cool, because they can also ask somebody, what do you like to do for fun, and what do you like using YouTube or Peloton app and a personal trainer, like what works for you, because it doesn't matter. You can have all the exercise equipment in the world in your basement, but if it's got dust on it, it's not working for you.
And those of you who are walking around listening to this, thank you for getting your 10,000 steps in. Now turn it into a slight jog. Uh, I saw a question come across, which is an important one that people um, have asked, my memory is not doing as great as it used to. What do you advise people to maintain and sharpen their memory?
So two things come to mind. Everything that we've been talking about as far as nutrition and exercise is going to help, but two big things that come to mind, it's lack of sleep. People think that they're entering this state of dementia or Alzheimer's, they're really not. They just haven't slept truly in weeks or months, and they just never slept well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. And the second thing is stress.
Mm-hmm.
If you are stressed out and your mind is in a million different spots, what makes you think that you're going to be, able to think of something like go. I talked to a guy today. He's like, these things are on the tip of my tongue. I want to get them out, and I know them. It just takes me a long time. And after talking with him for a half hour, you find out that he sleeps 4 to 5 hours a night, and he's also, a CEO at a company, and he's wearing too many hats at the company, and he's super stressed out. So before we jump to a diagnosis like Alzheimer's, to where, oh my gosh, this is the end for me, because I've seen somebody in my family go through that, or I know somebody who has dementia. Before we freak out about that, let's just go to the basics, and that's where I.
So sleep, diet, exercise, mindset, I think for me is one of the most important things. A gratitude mindset, an abundant mindset, a mindset of curiosity. Basically, I think, it's interesting. I've been writing, I'm constantly writing and in the field of longevity. And one of the stats I looked up was a study recently that on the average, optimists have an average of like a 15-year extended life over pessimists. And it pays.
I believe it. I think gratitude journals are a great idea for a lot of people. It's just, you got to do it. I think there is so many things. Like you look on Google right now, you could look up the top 10 things to improve mental health, and it'll tell you to do those things. But usually we just say, oh, great, and then we push it aside, and then we get on with our lives. We actually need to do some of these things and see if they work before you say it doesn't.
Yes, yeah. Hop on your favorite ChatGPT health advisory.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so folks know, I want to talk a little about what the biomarkers we measure on our quarterly blood draws and what those correlate to. And if you haven't tried Lifeforce, if you go to mylifeforce.com/Peter, which is me, hi, you can get $200 off your first biomarkers test, right? You can go and get your blood drawn at a center, or you can have a phlebotomist come to you, up to you. But when a person goes and does that, what are the biomarkers that you typically, you get a beautiful dashboard for yourself, right? And it's, every quarter you're comparing it, and your goal is to move things back into the green and maintain them there and learn about yourself, learn about your own physiology. Are you in great shape? Fantastic. If you're not, where are those areas you can make improvements? So what are we testing?
So there's a lot of things that we're testing. We're trying to get the 30,000-foot view of your health and then be able to dive in. So it's a combination of hormones, critical nutrients, your organ health, and then your inflammatory markers and cardiovascular markers like cholesterol. So it's a whole slew of labs that we check. I think it's over 40 labs that we check. But what most people don't realize is that when you're going into your primary care doctor, they only have have the bandwidth, whether that be from, you know, just not knowing about functional, or from insurance companies saying they can't order these tests, to only order like a few tests. And for most people, it's organ function, a basic CBC and a CMP, which is a comprehensive metabolic panel, which will look at your kidney function, liver function, electrolytes. And usually that's all people are getting. And then they get sent on their way and they say you're good. That's only a small portion of the labs that we're checking. There's so many other things that you can look at. Inflammation, cholesterol, different types of cholesterol, your hormones. People have no idea how much their hormones actually, you know, contribute to their cholesterol and their inflammatory markers.
Yep.
One of my
And
favorite.
it's really about hormone optimization, right? There's testosterone replacement therapy. There's hormonal treatments for women as well. But it's really how do you get yourself into your peak performance range?
Absolutely. And for a lot of people, it's really just focusing on the basics. A lot of time you do not need to, not everybody that I deal with is on full hormones. Like not every guy that I see is on testosterone. Most of the time, in the first 3 months, I'm talking to every guy about how to build up your testosterone naturally. And most of the time, they come back in 90 days and we go, hey, your testosterone doubled. How do you feel? And they say, I feel great. And you find out that you don't need to use these things. But it's nice to have a toolbox to where you can take advantage of hormone peptides and these nutraceuticals that we have. So,
yeah. Any of the particular biomarkers that we're testing at Lifeforce that are for you super important that are typically overlooked?
Absolutely. I think, you know, first off, like hormones, most people never get their hormones checked. And I think that's just very, very important.
Right.
Especially postmenopausal women. You just assume that, oh, I know what your hormones are and have a nice day. And there's so much we talk about your thyroid, your estrogen, your testosterone for women, progesterone. So I think that's a huge aspect is hormones. And then if I had to pick one that I would say, it's CRP, high sensitivity CRP. I think this is commonly used to diagnose raging infections in the hospital when we know it's going to be high and we just, you know, oh yeah, it's high. And yeah. Most people are living their lives with high sensitivity CRP is an inflammatory marker. And people don't realize that they have inflammation because they're just carrying on with their lives and they're so used to this. But when you look at high sensitivity CRP, the higher it gets, the higher your risk of cardiovascular disease is going for the rest of your life. So a big thing that I focus on is like, hey, we got to get this down. And then we can focus on some of the other markers here, but we got to get our inflammation down.
Yeah. I think people don't realize how insidious a killer inflammation is, and how much it wreaks havoc across the entire body.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And you could quantify inflammation not just as high sensitivity CRP, but insulin resistance. And not just looking at A1C, but looking at their full cholesterol profile and looking at their hormones in combination with that. Homocysteine, you know, what's your methylation status at? There's so many other things that we can be looking at.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing some of the outcomes you've seen with our Lifeforce members?
Sure. So most people, when they come back, and if they're giving it like a full go at it, like they're taking their supplements, they're actually trying to exercise, they're trying to add in some of the nutrition things that we talk about. Most people, I'd say the biggest thing that people have is energy, a lot more energy. And that's kind of the stepping stone to, you know, having more or better body composition, building muscle mass, having a better libido, sex drive, having
Yeah.
just overall vitality. But energy is definitely improved when you go through and find your biomarkers and find the ones that are actually.
Yep, off and get them back. And guys, again, if this is new to you, this is the future of medicine, right? This is the future of hyper-personalized medical care, where it's moving medicine out of the doctor's office, out of the hospital, into the home, where you're monitoring yourself on a regular basis. And this is the beginning, and I hope that you'll experiment with it. And to incentivize you, the team has asked me to offer out that $200 discount on your first series of blood draws and tests, and it's at mylifeforce.com/Peter. Please try it. Let's take a couple more questions here from the group before we wrap. I'm looking at some that have been submitted here, and I'm looking at the feed. So please go ahead and type your question in. With TRT, which is our testosterone replacement therapy in males, is the total cholesterol number more important, or the free testosterone, or both?
Yeah, so total and free testosterone are both in our hormone panel, and they're equally as important, because the total testosterone is your tank, your storage tank. How much do you have available? And then your free testosterone is what you actually are pulling out of that tank. Because most of our testosterone, like all of our hormones, are bound up by proteins floating throughout our bloodstream. But that free testosterone is where the rubber meets the road. And that's what guys are really feeling. So you got to measure the free testosterone, but you got to also look at how much you got in the tank as well. So both equally as important, and they help paint a picture of your hormone.
And Dr. Russ, what peptides are accessible now for on Lifeforce?
Yeah, so the most popular peptide that we're using right now is sermorelin. And sermorelin is going to interact with the IGF-1 response, and that's known as growth hormone. And growth hormone has a multitude of benefits, but most people are noticing what everybody wants to have is better body composition. They can start to see their six-pack again. For guys, for women, they're getting more tone, they're losing fat because they're gaining muscle. And then it just makes you feel better. I've personally taken the sermorelin as well. I like to take everything. I'm going to prescribe it. Usually I've taken it or tried it before, and it makes you feel really, really good. So I'm a big fan of sermorelin. We're going to be having semaglutide in the future, which is really hot on the market right now. Goes by the brand name Ozempic. But that's got a lot of weight loss potential for a lot of people. And then we have another one called PT141, which is another peptide that can help to boost libido and sex drive. And it's always going to be evolving. There's going to be more and more as time goes on. But I think we can do a lot of work with sermorelin. I really like that peptide.
Fantastic. Jara is asking, what are some areas one should check on top of Lifeforce? And Jara, I think there's a lot of imaging that Lifeforce doesn't do or doesn't do yet. Full body MRI and coronary CT, looking for soft plaque versus hard plaque. Those are some of the things that you can do. There's incredible tech out there, like the Grail liquid biopsy, that is looking for any of 50 different cancer DNAs that might be free floating to indicate an early stage of cancer. I mean, end of the day, your job is to get yourself back into metabolic health, to identify any signs of cardiovascular disease early before it hits you, right? I mean, just to be clear, 70% of all cardiovascular disease has no precedent. People have a heart attack. A lot of times they're first and only, meaning it knocks them off. And cardiac disease is 3 times more prevalent in women than breast cancer. Serious stuff. You need to understand your cardiac status, and you need to understand your metabolic status. And here's the deal. Today you can. And if you can, why wouldn't you want to? As I like to say, you're going to find out eventually. When is now a good time to find out what's going on inside your body?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely, outside of Lifeforce, a full cardiac workup is a great idea, with a coronary CT score, looking at even MRI, soft versus hard back. There's a lot of things that we can do. But then, like, sometimes going back to the basics, like if you're really worried about something, your primary care doctor can do a stress test. A lot of them have point of care ultrasound where they can do very basic things. And then I came from, a functional background. That was where a lot of my training was. And, going back to where I started with food, I think food sensitivity testing is very underrated, and getting people to see that, ooh, maybe that's not as good for me as I thought it was.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's Snickers bar, baby. I thought it used to be good for me, but yeah. A sister company to Lifeforce that I'm chairman of is called Fountain Life, and I keep on reversing the names here. And Fountain Life can give you full body imaging and MRIs and so forth to image what's going on inside. We built Lifeforce really to be affordable and accessible, and really about maximizing vitality and energy in your life. And please, if this is, again, the first time you're hearing about this kind of advanced type of predictive and personalized medicine, you owe it to yourself. You really do. Dr. Russ, thank you so much for joining me today. Appreciate it. And I hope all you guys will join us inside of Lifeforce. It's mylifeforce.com is the website. Check it out. If you want your $200 off your first blood draw and diagnostic, and maybe you'll get Dr. Russ as your physician. If you're lucky, you look pretty amazing and spot on. So anyway, proud of what the team at My Lifeforce is doing, and thank you everybody for listening in, and have a beautiful day. Yeah.
I just saw Jacob, so give a shout out to him. So, but looking forward to it, and thanks for having me on, Peter.
Thank you. A pleasure. Looking forward to meeting you in the real world one of these days.
One of these days, it'll be happening.
All right. Take care, my friend. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate you.
Of course, you too.